Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning into the trade setup. I'm Neeraj Shah. Well, lots of things to focus on this week. Remember, following a very quiet week in terms of data and events, spotlight from a global perspective now turns to three major central banking meetings, which is the Federal Reserve, the ECB, and the BOJ. And maybe just one rate hike, but the commentary from the Fed would probably set the stage of what happens to global markets this week. Now, in light, and there is also the US Q2 GDP. In light of that, the globe becomes as important as India does because India is a packed, heavy earnings week and it's also a derivatives week. So the week itself will be full of action. Now, for today, what did the US markets do? Well, they eked out minor gains, if you will, in Friday's session. So if you look at the Dow and the S&P, just about ending in the green. The Nasdaq, of course, 0.22% down, and for the week as well, the Nasdaq didn't have a rara week, to be very honest. The other Qs were stable. The yields have inched up and they stay higher, above 3.9. I remember the whole of last 2 weeks, I was talking about the zone of 3.7 to 3.9. On Friday or Thursday, they moved up above 3.9, and they've stayed there. VIX is stable. Dollar index is above 100 as well. So that was a brief interlude of the yields correcting and the dollar index below 100. I think it's moved back up. So that's the key. And the SGX Nifty or the GIFT Nifty should come up on your screen for a moment. Sorry, before we get the global news flow, the GIFT Nifty is down about 0.14% at 19,739. So near and yet so far from 20,000. The global news flow now. China has addressed or tries to address investor concerns in a meeting with global funds. But the news flow doesn't seem to be very positive there. Most Asian markets except China trade in the green the last time I saw. India's deepened economic ties with Sri Lanka introduced UPI in the Sri Lanka market as well, I believe. I think this has happened or going to introduce, either of the two. Excuse me if it's going to introduce and not introduced as yet. So pardon me for that, but I think it has. At least that's what I seem to be reading from the headline. And oil is open lower, the week lower as the traders assess Fed tightening and the tightening oil market both in conjunction. So in light of all of this, what is a simple way to trade today? Well, I think it's not a simple way to trade today simply because it's a packed day full of result reactions and difficult to quite assess what could happen to one beyond the other. So the trade setup will come up on your screen first. And like we keep on saying, trade the market, not the forecast. So there are some jitters around Mount 20,000, but the underlying factors still remain strong, I believe. However, index could take body blows from Reliance and banks could help shore up the confidence. Pharma is doing well ahead of a key results week, and that augurs well for the sector. Viewers, from the start of March, if you see, Pharma has been moving almost in tandem with what the Nifty is done. This whole last week, Pharma index actually did much better in a relative sense to some key indices. And this week is a key one in terms of results for Pharma. I believe there is Dr. Reddy's, Cipla, mid-sized names as well coming out with numbers. So it's an important pharma week, and therefore this sector, which has largely been a market performer since March, but has been a rank underperformer before, could be a good one to look at from a trading perspective. I saw this I saw Dr. C.K. Narayan also mention something like this in his note as well. So that is to be watched out for. Now, the other key aspect to focus on, viewers, is flows. Remember, we had a slightly negative set of flows, one-off in Friday's session. Let's see if this trend lasts or whether there is a bit of a difference there. So that is to be watched out for as well. In terms of numbers, there is Tata Steel coming out with numbers today, and that's the large one from the index perspective. Aside of that, a clutch of important ones: Canara Bank, Craftsman Automation, IDBI Bank, IFL Securities. There's JK Paper, PNB Housing Finance is important one, as is Poonawalla Fincorp, and SRF could be important. Remember, companies which came out with slightly wobbly numbers last week as well. Atul, for example, the numbers weren't on the best, but maybe the negatives are in the price and the stock went up about 6%. Can SRF do the same if its con call is interesting? I think that's the key thing. So watch out for that as well. What about stocks to watch in the session today, in light of the fact that a lot of result reactions anticipated in trade. So there is Reliance that we should start off with. And for a lot of these numbers, I'm not getting the exact results because the results are known, but trying and getting more of what the brokerages have said. So Morgan Stanley's note on Reliance is interesting. They have they have reduced the target price to 3,000 from 3,210. Now, what they're saying is that the earnings report should shift the narrative towards an upgrade cycle as the chemical destocking cycle ends and global fuel demand continues to outperform. Retail revenue per square foot improves from the lows, net debt stabilizes, and 5G rollout gets traction. Except for 5G rollout, the same argument that I've heard for the last 2 3 years, I'll be very honest. Or at least the last 2 3 quarters, if not the last 2 3 years, on the chemical side. But otherwise, the global fuel demand as well as retail revenue per square foot, net debt is an argument that's played out now for a while. Morgan Stanley too is lower its target price. They say that tax rate normalized to 24% in 1Q from 11.6% in March 2023. As production from KG Basin should rise to 30 MMSCD, that is something that is to be watched out for. And major maintenance in O2C business was completed in the June quarter, which maybe hampered the June numbers, but could go ahead. Now, key point is, viewers, that everybody, was worried about the Reliance GDR, which was down quite significantly over the weekend. But the thing that might go for or work for Reliance as well as some of the others is that Singapore GRMs are getting back to normal. I mean, so 7.95 per barrel, which is the highest since March. GRMs have been rising very swiftly. The May 2023 low was about 0.9 per barrel, and now it is 7.95 per barrel. So Reliance has that a technical trigger of rising GRMs, which have to be kept in mind. So do watch out for RIL in the session today. Then do watch out for ICICI Bank. Jefferies sums up the results, and they say it's a buy with a target price of 1240. They say the 1Q profit of 96 billion, which is 40% or 9,600 crores, 40% growth, was ahead of estimates with tad better NIMs, with lower recoveries and upgrades. Even with stable slippages, trend of lower credit cost may stay, which is a good news. Pick up in deposit growth to 18% should aid loan growth, and 18% loan growth will be acceptable, to be honest. They see a 16% CAGR impact over FY23 to 26. Well, 16% CAGR for a bank of that size, very good. Morgan Stanley has an equal weight on KOTAK Bank, which is the other one that came out with numbers. They say it continues to deliver on asset quality, growth, and profitability. The deposit growth was a key result that accelerated further in the quarter, 6% QOQ, 22% YOY, versus 16% last quarter. Potential for operating leverage, according to MS, is strong. They believe capital market trends have picked up and they expect sustained strong earnings. So do watch out for KOTAK Bank 2 in trade in the session today. That's the other stock in focus. Then I think the one that I like the most, I've missed out on two things, which is DLF and HDFC Life, and I'll get those at the end of trade setup. Credag is the other one. The numbers. So NII was up 58% to 720 crores versus 456 crores. PAT up 2x to 347 crores versus 138 crores. And quite a stunning quarter, really. And HSBC rightly came out with a note, which has a buy call despite the higher valuations. They are saying that the higher quality of growth of Credag deserves higher multiples. The target price has been raised to 1670 from 1450. They say that yields increased and cost ratios declined, resulting in a stronger profit beat. It's a beneficiary of the harmonization of MFI regulations with those of banks. They believe the FY25 price to book multiple of 2.6x leaves some room for re-rating given the outlook. So they say that it's expensive, but it deserves higher multiples. That's the HSBC view, not necessarily everybody else's. I haven't able to get some of the other brokerages, to be honest, on credit access, but some high quality investors are constructive on this. The results are very strong. Do watch out for Credag in the session today. Do watch out for RK Forgings in the session today. Very interesting acquisitions announced too. So they're saying sales up 28% at 892 versus 699. EBITDA up 28% at 192 versus 150. EBITDA margins at 22% versus 21%, and PAT up 53% at 79 crores versus 51 crores. Now, the thing is, viewers, the numbers are good. The company's expanded capacity by 13% to 210,900 tons recently. It will commission another 32,500 tons by September 2023. And it's announced two acquisitions, which will add about 10% revenue from FY26 onwards. So, net, well, they're doing everything that they can in order to improve their growth metrics, and that should, I believe, augur well for Ramkrishna Forging. So it's a stock that's rallied quite a bit in recent times. I would suspect that there could be more in store by virtue of the fact that there is a damn capital note which says that there is a re-rating possible for RK Forging. So do watch out for this one in the session. I haven't mentioned Titagar, but that also came out with a steady state of numbers. So both of these will be in conversation today with BQ Prime at about 11:15 and 11:30. So I want to tune in for those. We'll get you the updates of the conversations a bit later on. And Paytm, they expect to be cash flow positive before end of FY24. They say that the take rate in the lending business is 3.5% to 3.75% and expected to improve going forward. The take rates in the commerce business moderated to 5% to 6% in Q1, but expected to increase in H2 due to seasonality. So do watch out for Paytm too. I think brokerages have been constructive on these numbers. Landmark Life, Q1 numbers, sales up 18%, PAT up 25%, EBITDA margins at 33% versus 30%. Pretty strong show by Landmark Life. Signed DLM, EBITDA was strong, EBITDA margins were strong, and total revenue numbers looked okay as well. Do watch out for this one. Tejas Network had an iffy quarter though. Revenue from operations gained about 49%, but EBITDA loss stood at 46 crores versus 7 crores. EBITDA margins minus 24%. Net loss widened to 26 versus 6 crores. It's a company in the investment phase, and which is what people believe that in the future it will do remarkably well. Let's see if that happens. RT Drugs, the numbers seemed okay. Total revenue from operations up 6%. EBITDA margin at 12.7 versus 10.8. Net profit up 38% to 48 crores versus 34 crores. And a couple of notes that I read said that the sales growth was due to higher volume from the API business and due to declining raw material pricing. They expect margins to improve going forward. The company's also approved a buyback. It's a tiny, weeny buyback at 900 per share. Or maybe that coupled with numbers results in RT Drug doing well today. So do watch out for that. And SJVN has two separate announcements, both of which are interesting. They've signed PPAs for 300 megawatts and 200 megawatts in Maharashtra and Delhi. Development cost of Maharashtra and Delhi projects are 1,200 crores and 750 crores. Now, if you thought this was interesting, see the other one. The subsidiary SJVN Green Energy has received LOI from Punjab State Power Corporation Limited for procurement of 1,200 megawatts solar power. These solar power projects shall be developed on a build, own and operate basis. The tentative cost of construction could be about 7,000 crores. So two large things for SJVN. By the way, large for NHPC as well. The government of Arunachal Pradesh has allotted the Subansiri Upper HE project of 2,000 megawatts and Kamla HE project of 1,800 megawatts to the company. That's large, but NHPC gets them. And Power Finance Corporation has signed MOUs worth 2.37 lakh crores with 20 companies in the clean energy segment. Now, we know that MOUs don't necessarily mean business. I mean, they've been signed with Adani Group, Greenco, Renew, etc. They don't necessarily mean that business will be done. But we know that the government is very serious about power. And therefore, you would believe that a lot of these might happen. Viewers, if you... Elara Capital recently came out with a note with an upgrade on PFC. So that's part one. If you want to understand more about the opportunity size at PFC, my colleague Vishwanath Nair did an interview with the PFC management. It is something you might want to go in on YouTube, on our website, wherever, and search for it. I think there's some very interesting conversation around the opportunity size, which he's captured there very well with the management. You should try and see that. But this is very interesting. It's been a quote unquote powerful weekend for the power companies. Let's see if indeed it translates into price action. Biocon has had some issue. USFDA has issued a Form 483 maybe, so that could be a bit of a problem for Biocon. So let's see what happens there. Seshasai paper results were weak. It's the first company in the paper block. JK paper comes out with numbers this week, so maybe Seshasai has some issues. Rajratan Buyers had some issues, so that could be in focus as well. And some other stocks in focus include a Railtel, wherein Bond Mutual Fund has bought about 22 lakh shares, or L&T Finance, which has been cut to underweight at Morgan Stanley, price target 110, which is a 15% downside. Vedanta has been cut to a sell at Citi, price target 225 rupees, 19% downside. Or Canfin Homes, which has been raised to overweight at Morgan Stanley, price target rupees 1000, which is about a 19% upside. So, well, watch out for all of these as well. DLF was ho-hum, by the way, so nothing that great. HDFC Life, I saw a couple of brokerages raise the target price, so only that does react. I think so I've tried to cover as much as I can. Now the focus will be on Reliance, what it does, opposing factors at play, results negative, but GRMs on the up. Maybe that helps. Banks, both Kotak, ICICI Bank, RBL, EU Small Finance Bank, Moti, those things were okay. But most banks have guided towards compression or spoken about compression in NIMs and guided towards more compression in net interest margins. Does that play a small sport? Maybe not. The valuations are okay. I think banks are in a sweet spot. So watch out for banks. Watch out for Credit Access Grameen. Watch out for pharma stocks. RT drugs notwithstanding. Some of the others too this week come on with results. So those could be interesting. And a clutch of other smaller names in the power space, large names as well. And the results space, some smaller names as well. L&T Finance, a sharp cut to targets. Vedanta sharp cuts to targets. Canfin Homes raised to overweight at Morgan Stanley, so that's an uptick. Lots of stocks to focus on. I hope you got some of these at least, but it's a wide buffet out there. Trade wisely today. It's a very important week, so trade wisely for the week as well. And like I said, a lot of conversations coming up at BQ Prime today. So aside of course, JSW Steel, Jayant Acharya at 9:30, that's an important one. And he talks at length, I think, about the guidance for the year and the quarter. So watch out for that. So JSW Steel is important. Krishna Kumar Karwa on talking point today at 10 a.m. So that is important. Then a touch of result. And of course, since IT is the focus point of everybody's thoughts, JP Morgan's head of APAC IT and Telecom, Ankur Rudra, joins in at 10:30 a.m. to talk about the IT pack. And at 11:15, 11:15, Umesh Chaudhary of Titagar Wagons. I think 11:30, we have Ramkrishna Forgings. So that's to be watched out for. 12 p.m., Alpha Strategies with Motilal Oswal's Ashish Shankar and Nitin Shanbhag. So that's to be watched out for. And then, of course, the trade talk conversations at 11 a.m., 8:30, and 3:15. So, packed day. We hope you tune in for some of these. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Trade Setup.